Hello students, welcome to Institute for Humanities. My name is Shubhanshu Jaiswal and let us continue our series of multilateralism. In the last video, we discussed about SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We discussed its past, its present, its challenges, prospects and its future. Today we are going to do the similar analysis for the next very important topic of multilateralism, and it is BRICS. Very much in news and very important for your exams. So let us continue. First of all, what is BRICS? It is an acronym, okay, used for the group of 5 nations. Which one? The Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. The group of these 5 nations. Now, point to be noted here is that BRICS is not an institution. Why? Because it is not having any secretariat or infrastructure per se. It is more of a forum, okay, where the leaders from these nations are interacting, they are discussing and annual summits are happening. Okay, so far there have been 14 summits in BRICS. Okay, there is also the concept of chairmanship. The chairmanship in BRICS is rotated annually. Okay, for example, India was having the chairmanship in 2021, China got the chairmanship in 2022 and South Africa is having the chairmanship of BRICS at current, and hence they are going to host the BRICS summit of this year. Okay, and that is why BRICS is in the news. So now let us know the basics, the background, the history of BRICS. Okay, fine. The first time this acronym was actually used by an economist, Jim O'Neill. Now he is from an institution, a financial institution, Goldman Sachs. Okay, now this Goldman Sachs, they published the report, okay, time to time, and in the particular year 2001, in this report Jim highlighted that the BRIC nations, the Brazil, Russia and India and China, they are going to be the emerging economies in the coming future. Now this is how the focus of world came towards these nations, and this was the idea, but the idea was turned into reality by the efforts of Russia. Russia took this thing very seriously. They initiated meetings. Fine. In 2006, they held the first BRICS ministerial meeting, and in 2008, Russian president started meeting with BRICS leaders during G8 summit, and eventually in the year 2009, first BRICS summit was held at Yekaterinburg in Russia. And here the joint statement was declared, and basically it highlighted the aims, objectives and working of BRICS nations. Fine. And later in 2010, South Africa also joined this forum. This has been the history. Now, why this in particular forum is so important? It is because it is covering 41% of world's population, 29.3% of world's land, 24% of the global GDP and 16% of world trade. With these are the figures which cannot be simply ignored. These 5 nations are holding a lot. That is why this particular forum is of the great importance. Now, after forming the BRICS, what is the work? How will they work? What are their areas of cooperation? So they are going to work in 3 dimensions. These are known as pillars of cooperation. Okay, these pillars are political and security, economic and financial, and cultural and people to people exchange cooperation. Let us look at them one by one. In context of political and security cooperation, they aim to achieve peace and security overall. Okay, why? Because understand, these nations, Brazil, Russia, India and China, they have somehow similar history. Okay, that is why they today aspire to have peace. Fine. Now they also intend to establish a fair world. given their history. Okay, now they also intend to share their policies, their ideas of or practices in dealing with their domestic and regional challenges. Fine, they want to structure, they want to establish more balanced global politics, and their foreign policies also revolve around this only. For example, Africa's agenda and their south-south cooperation. Fine, now let us look at the economic cooperation. In this particular dimension, BRICS has been quite successful. Okay, there have been a lot of trade and investment within these nations. Fine, there have been many agreements, in fact. Okay, for example, agreements on innovation cooperation, customs operation, strategic cooperation between BRICS Business Council, and the most important, Contingent Reserve Agreement and NDB, the New Development Bank. These two are the most important things. We will discuss them separately later. Fine. Now let us look at the third dimension, the third pillar, which is people to people exchange and cooperation. Now in this category, the major work was in year 2015, when ministerial mechanism was established on cultural cooperation. There have been few agreements. The basic idea is to share and promote and to cooperate in field of culture, sports, education, film and youth. There have been various forum working in this regard, like Young Diplomats Forum, Parliamentarian Forum, Trade and Union Forum, etc., Media Forum, etc. Fine. So they are working in this dimension as well. Okay, now apart from this, as we discussed, that NDB and the contingent reserve, the contingent agreement, these two are the highlights of BRICS. So now let us look at them. In the New Development Bank, the idea of setting up this bank, okay, this institution, came up in the year 2012. Okay, it got into reality in 2014 when the agreement was signed, and in 2015 this bank started operating. Fine, the headquarters is in Shanghai. They aim to mobilize the resources for infrastructure and sustainable development projects. Who is the member of this bank? The members are BRICS nations plus Bangladesh, UAE, Egypt, Uruguay. Now Uruguay is a prospective member. That means by and large they have fulfilled all the obligations. The board of governors of NDB have even accepted them as a members. However, still few formalities are left. Fine. To complement the existing efforts of multilateral and regional financial institutions. See, these are the written aims. What is the unwritten aim? The unwritten objective is to basically establish an institution which can work as an alternative to the Western financial institutions like World Bank, and NDB has worked upon that. Fine. So if we talk about these are the operational areas where NDB is actually working: the clean energy and energy efficiency, water sanitation, digital infrastructure, transport infrastructure, environment and social infrastructure. So as you can see, it is covering almost all the dimensions. Fine. Now if we talk about NDB's work, including its contingent assistance facility, it provides loans to the member countries to finance direct expenses. It has so far approved 70 infrastructural and sustainable projects worth 25.07 billion US dollars. Okay, particularly in India, they have approved 18 projects worth 6.9 billion US dollars. Okay. Now, NDB's approved projects in India, these are the examples. You don't need to remember them, but still you can see the major projects of India, like Delhi, Ghaziabad, Meerut Regional Rapid Transit System Project, the Mumbai Metro Rail Project. The projects like these are being approved by NDB. So you can imagine the extent to which NDB is working. Okay. Now this was the basic background. One more thing is here. Yes, contingent reserve agreement. Now what was the context? The context in which it came was increasing instances of global financial crisis. So in 2014, when this fertilizer declaration was happening, when this NDB was being established, at the same time BRICS CRA was also established. Fine. The aim was to provide short-term liquidity support to the members. Fine. So that balance of payment is healthy for these nations. The initial total committed resources to the CRA shall be $100 billion. So this is quite a big amount. Hence, it becomes important. Also, strengthening the global financial safety net and complement the existing international arrangements. For example, IMF. So they have also worked in this regard. Now this was the basic background. Now what is happening at present in BRICS is going to conduct 15th summit in South Africa. Fine. This is going to be hosted by South Africa, and the theme for this is partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development and inclusive multilateralism. Now this is the news, but what is the issue? The issue, there are two big things which are going to be discussed in this summit, and the world is keenly waiting for this summit to happen. Now these two things are, first, BRICS expansion. Okay, currently as we discussed, there are 5 members. However, 23 countries have formally applied, including Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Argentina, Indonesia, Egypt and Ethiopia. So these 23 countries have applied for expansion. Now we need to see whether they get into BRICS or not. Second is, BRICS wants to float its own currency. Fine. To protect their economies from vulnerability of US hegemony. This is called de-dollarization. Fine. So these are the two things which will happen in BRICS, and much is there to discover. Fine. What is the stand of BRICS, India's stand in this regard? So all the countries are fine with it except Brazil and India. India has been very staunch on its stand. India is claiming that they want a clear criteria, membership criteria to be defined. They want the format, criteria and process to be cleared. Fine. Brazil is very much skeptical as far as BRICS expansion is concerned. Fine. So this has been the key issues.